Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Chandler of the Integrative Health Program at Massey Cancer Center. The Integrative Program offers a variety of services intended to improve the quality of life for those diagnosed with cancer or even their families. And among these services are legal services. At Massey, we have the Medical Legal Program, and with me today is Lisa Allen, the client services attorney from CancerLink and the MLP attorney at Massey Cancer Center. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
Can you explain what the MLP is and just what does CancerLink do?
Sure. The MLP is a program at VCU Health. Allison Held is the director, and it's got lots of arms. For example, Sarah Blose is an attorney with Central Virginia Legal Aid Society, and she is on site at Children's Hospital. And I work for CancerLink, and I'm on site at Massey 12 hours a week, or before the pandemic, I was on site at Massey 12 hours a week. The Medical Legal Partnership is a national movement, actually, where hospitals and care providers are trying to place lawyers in locations where their patients can take advantage of it. Because very often people who have health issues often have legal problems. And while we want somebody to come to their doctor and get a medical diagnosis and get treatment, at the same time, if that person is experiencing problems with housing or being harassed by debt collectors, or has a serious diagnosis and they're worried that they don't have their affairs in order, those things can take their toll on the patients. So by putting lawyers in the same space with the patients and the providers, we're able to meet those needs a little bit better.
Absolutely.
That's what MLP does.
Absolutely important to do so that the patient can focus on getting better or their treatment rather than, as you said, being hounded by someone.
Yeah.
So what type of services?
Well, I actually talked to an oncology nurse who had a bone marrow transplant patient who was being hounded in isolation by a bill collector at one point, which is crazy. Like, there's nothing he can do at that point, right? We provide a wide range of services. We about half of the legal matters that I handle are life planning documents, people wanting to get their wills done. But we also will help clients find attorneys to help with a Social Security disability denial and appealing that. We help find housing attorneys. We help people find employment attorneys. We have financial planners who are on board. We have a really nice collection of financial planners who help.
Let me interrupt you. You said employment. So you're telling me that cancer patients have employment issues?
Yeah. Yeah, not really a surprise. It's really been exacerbated by COVID, because cancer patients very often will, especially now, employers are saying, okay, come back to work. And cancer patients are saying, I'm immunocompromised. I don't belong in that office. It's extra dangerous for me. So yeah, employment lawyers have been really slamming busy during this time. But we find, I had a call with a client the other day. She worked with one of our attorneys. She had been employed by the same company for 15 years. She talked to this attorney. She thought she was going to get fired. And he suggested the language that she needed to use in a letter. That's all he did. He just talked to her and said, try this, try saying this. These are the code words that will get a response. And so they're setting her up this week to work remotely, and she starts working from home next week. So it worked. Her employer responded positively. She got reasonable accommodations for her medical condition, and she can go back to work. That changes everything. That changes her insurance. That changes her quality of life. That changes her sense of value. So, you know, I mean, sometimes just a little work from a lawyer can have a huge benefit.
Lisa, you explained a little bit about the MLP and that there are chapters across the nation. Can you tell us a little bit about CancerLink and their history?
Yeah. CancerLink actually was founded a little more than 24 years ago by two women who were law professors at University of Richmond. And they were both cancer survivors. And they had come through the experience with a great employer and an accommodating job, and yet between dealing with the brain fog and the difficulty of managing a family and a job and a life and a cancer diagnosis and treatment, they came away saying, how do people do this if they're not law professors? So they created CancerLink. They're both still alive. They're both still survivors. They both pop in from time to time to, be cheerleaders for CancerLink. But the organization's been going for 24 years now. What we do, we have more than 150 attorneys around the area who volunteered to help our clients. We have a nice bench now of financial advisors, financial planners who will work with our clients. And we have a pretty extensive list of other kinds of services that we can connect our clients to. So
tell me more about the financial services. I don't immediately think of that. I think about it, maybe employment issues, pushback, and certainly insurance issues, but financial planners, what can they do for our patients?
Well, if you start with a client who was just barely keeping his nose above water, maybe had a little more credit card debt than he should, but was just sort of barely hanging in there. And then you add a cancer diagnosis, even if it's something where he doesn't lose his job, but he's got to take more time off from work to go for treatment. All of a sudden, he's not making as much money. Or if there's an employment problem, he could find himself without insurance and not knowing how he's going to pay his rent. Now you've got problems with debt collection and not really knowing how to make your money work for you better. I've talked to clients who have they've got the weirdest loans. People have refinanced their houses through these shady organizations, and I'm just like, I can't believe you have a mortgage with, I can't say the name of it, but you just can't even do that. People are paying on loans that are secured by their homes where the interest rate is 20%. That's just wrong. That shouldn't happen. So when people talk to financial planners, I have a client I met in the Lynn Powell Patient Resource Library, for example. He came in right after he had his diagnosis and he was looking for literature, and he saw the sign and we started talking, and he thought, oh, I better get my affairs in order. I better get a will. So we started talking about that. We got his will done. And it brought out some issues about some debt. So I asked him if he wanted us to connect him to a financial planner. He thought that was a good idea. So the financial planner called us and said, this guy needs to talk to somebody, he needs to talk to another lawyer about unfair debt collection practices. I can help him consolidate his debt, but he may need a bankruptcy. We found a lawyer who did debt collection issues and bankruptcy, who actually worked with the client and the financial planner. They consolidated his debt, decided he didn't need a bankruptcy, kind of put everything all together. We picked him up and got him together. So now, we can't point and say, there's been a 0.5 centimeter reduction in his tumor size, but he sleeps at night, right? So that's a huge difference. And it's very typical of our clients that they come into the library looking for literature, and before you know it, like, we're wrapping them in services.
Right. And of course, that's what we really hope to do with not only MLP and CancerLink, but the other programs. So now that COVID is here and we've had to temporarily close the Lynn Powell Resource Center, how are you finding out about you? How do they get in touch with you?
There are a handful of ways. You can, through VCU, you can contact the MLP, and they'll do an intake and they'll put you in touch with us.
So what do you mean by an intake?
Well, we help all patients.
Mhm.
If somebody is within our income guidelines, we provide them with free legal services. If they exceed our financial guidelines, we'll make a for-fee referral.
Okay.
Um, but the MLP office can do an initial intake and just pass through the information. Or a lot of people just call us directly.
So
Um,
how would they call you directly?
um, our office is right downtown. We're online. You can come to our website and click a link, and you can fill out your own, little blip, and we'll contact you to do our intake, and we'll hook you up.
So on my smartphone, if I don't have a computer, I can Google cancerlink.com and it will,
Org.
or cancerlink.org, and it will connect me. It'll show me your telephone number and
Sure.
website and everything. Good to know. Now,
And
that's for
Cancer Link
people.
ends with a C.
I'm sorry.
Cancer Link ends with a C.
Cancer Link ends with a C. Important. So you mentioned the office is downtown. Of course, that's convenient, for people that live in the Richmond area, and also for our patients coming to Massey. We do have a sign right outside the resource center with your contact information, even though the center is closed. But what about people that live outside of Richmond?
Well, Cancer Link works on behalf of patients in any of the Richmond area hospitals, connected with any of the treatment centers. So I was going to Massey 12 hours a week, but I was going to other hospitals. I was going to a different hospital every Friday. I also have gone out to meet people at their homes to get documents signed. We have attorneys in Chesterfield and Henrico and different areas around, so that when we have a patient who lives out in Chesterfield, we can find him a lawyer who lives out in Chesterfield and practices out there. So people don't necessarily have to come into the city.
But what about our outreach, like our hospital in South Hill, and now we've just purchased one in the Tappahannock region. So will the services extend, or do they currently extend beyond the Richmond area?
We have a geographic limitation because we can only build so much capacity. Our capacity diminishes the further out you go geographically. So we cover this area pretty effectively, and not so much outside. We run into trouble sometimes because people will come a long distance to be treated at Massey.
Right. That's really what I was wondering about.
Yeah. So we sometimes have clients who, they like meeting me at Massey. That's really cool. I've done a lot of document signings on the physical campus there. So the combination of having me there and being willing to travel a bit to meet with clients and having lawyers who are outside the immediate Richmond area all helps. But certainly when we have somebody who's coming in, we had a patient who was coming in about 80 miles to meet with for treatment at Massey. And it was really difficult to connect him to services because we don't have as much available out where he is. So when we see that, we start building capacity. And one of the things I'll do is I pick up the phone and I'll call the legal aid office out in that neck of the woods and ask, what do I do about this client? If the client meets legal aid guidelines financially, which are more restrictive than Cancer Link's, the legal aid office will often say, oh, we'll get it. We'll cover it. No problem.
Excellent. So there are options, and
Yeah.
through you can network
Yeah.
and try to help. So we've talked a lot about the logistics.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the types of cases you help patients with? What's the most typical or most frequent?
It's life planning documents.
Life planning. Okay.
A lot of people put off getting their will done, and then they get a cancer diagnosis, and all of a sudden they think, okay, it's time. Far and away, 50% of our cases are doing life planning documents.
What's included in that?
It's a variety of things. A will, a power of attorney, an advanced medical directive is sort of sort of the basics. Somebody at the hospital can do an advanced medical directive, or I can do one, depending on whether it's been done or not. I also had a client who, I've had several clients, one woman in particular came to get her life planning documents done. And as we were talking, she was saying, she was really apprehensive she was afraid she was going to die and her mother was going to swoop in and claim the body and plant her out with all the dead relatives that she didn't like and who didn't approve of her.
Oh.
And she was afraid that, like, she could get her will written, but she couldn't control what happened to her remains. Well, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you can. There's a document for that. So we executed that document, and she named somebody who would be responsible for her funeral arrangements, who she knew would do what she wanted. Because she just didn't, like, she was like, I know I'm not going to be here for it, but the last thing I want, okay, we can take care of that.
And that gives her peace of mind, and that lets her focus more on her treatment and hopefully her recovery.
Yeah.
So what a wonderful service.
So what is included in life planning documents can change. If somebody has a special needs child, that child can't just inherit money. It will interfere with his benefits. So if you have a special needs child and he's getting SSI and he gets Medicaid and he inherits $40,000, all of a sudden his benefits stop until that money's been spent down. But if you put that money into a special needs trust, then that adult child can continue to receive benefits, but that money is there under the care of a trustee so that it can be drawn on when he needs it.
Wow. Again, that peace of mind.
Yeah. And it's really specific to the individual. You find as you start talking to people, then they start saying, well, I've got this other issue, and that's when you have those conversations as you move into talking about somebody's will, that breaks down a lot of walls and people start talking about the things that are worrying them. And they're surprised sometimes that a lawyer can actually address them. We can help. So that's what we do.
You can more than help. It's amazing what can be done. Earlier you mentioned something about denials from SSI or Social Security. Can you talk a little bit about that and the impact of that?
Sure. People apply for Social Security disability. They've been working, they've been paying into it, and they apply, but Social Security is a different world. That application process is complicated, and most people get denied when they first apply for disability benefits.
Really?
The vast majority are denied. Yeah. So they don't understand what the appeals process looks like. It takes forever just to get your first denial. The wheels turn very, very slowly. So we get calls from people who've been denied. The first appeal is a quick and usually not very effective process that's just paperwork. The second level of appeal is with an administrative law judge. And that's when, if you have a good lawyer and you actually have the documentation in the medical record that you need, and you have it in your hands, and you can prove that you can't work, an administrative law judge will grant the SSDI benefit. So a lawyer really helps, making sure the medical record is there, it's on point, having the client talk to his physician and say, this is what they're asking, and I have to prove this. The doctor will say, okay, well, yeah, you qualify, no problem. And we'll write the letter, we'll fill out the documents in such a way that it makes everything easier. So a lawyer can sort of be the cheerleader for that process and then show up in the administrative law judge hearing with the client, and it makes it work better.
It's amazing knowing, for the layperson who we see the denial or hear the denial and think the door is permanently closed.
Right.
But there is an avenue if you just know how to access that avenue. So there's hope. Lisa, you've helped so many people. The services that MLP and Cancer Link provide through you and others. can you tell me about maybe one or two of the most meaningful instances or examples of where you feel like you've really been able to make a difference? I mean, every story you've told us, obviously you've made a difference, but share with us.
Well, I think that one guy I told you about who came in sort of looking for literature and somebody to talk to into the patient resource library, and finding out that he could get his will done. He was like, all right, mostly I don't think he was really set on getting his life planning documents done, but he just really needed to interact with people as he was processing the diagnosis. So it created the start of this relationship that's gone in so many different ways. This woman who came in who wanted the document done to keep her mother's hands off her corpse, literally. She was really funny. She came in, she was wearing a headscarf. And I had been in the patient resource library, and I know Monet from the wig salon. And I said, have you thought about getting a wig? And she said, well, and she took her scarf off, and her hair was so cute. It was short and it was silver and it looked great. I was surprised that she was wearing the scarf. And she said, well, I look in the mirror and I see my father. She didn't like it. So I told her about Monet and about the wig salon at Massey, and she went and got a wig. I had to see her a couple weeks later, and she had this gorgeous wig. She looked fabulous. So we were able to connect her with the document about her remains, her life planning documents, the wig, and then she called because she had some financial trouble, and she was looking for help paying for dog food. She was worried about not being able to keep her dogs fed. I have a connection to an organization that might be able to help, so I gave her the link to that, and then said, if feeding the dog is a challenge, can we connect you to a financial planner who might be able to help? So now she's got an appointment with a financial planner. So again, it's that kind of situation where, little by little, people reveal what the problem is. And every time, at least you're there to say, I'm really sorry this is happening. At the very least. And sometimes you can say, oh, Monet can hook you up with a wig. This is awesome.
Simple as that.
You can fix it, right? And sometimes all you can do is just have empathy and let them know that you hear them.
It is so much about the human connection and about trust. And what I'm hearing in your stories is that as that connection is made and the trust is established, then those layers start peeling away, and you're able to really provide valuable services. Now, we've heard about things you can help with. Is there anything legal wise that you don't go there?
Excellent question. Yeah. If you need a divorce, that's not our turf. We don't do family law. If there's an issue with a guardianship that's contested, that's not our world at all. We don't do medical malpractice. Mm-hmm. We want to be invited back, right? So if, just listen to the radio, find your med mal guy, but don't call us for that. So we don't do immigration, but there are some connections from the MLP to people who might, in a particular compelling case, if there's a medical angle that is important. So that's sort of not literally, not regularly on our plate, but in some cases, we can point you in the right direction.
Good. Anything else? There's the major categories.
That's it, yeah.
So I've heard, and I think it may be better in 2020, it being insurance coverage for treatment. Certainly with Obamacare, more and more people have become covered. But do you have instances where insurance companies are pushing back, or can you do anything about that? Can you step in there?
We have a couple of attorneys who work with private insurance issues. We don't get too much call for it.
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. So far, knock wood. they haven't been beating down our doors about that. So,
Good.
yeah, but we do have a couple of folks.
In the final moments that we have, I'll invite you to share anything that you'd like to put out there about CancerLink and MLP, or even any of your experiences.
Well, I think the first thing that I want people to know is within the VCU health community, if you're listening to your patients, really listening, and you have your eyes open and you are aware that your client, your patient, has a legal problem, call us. Have the patient call us, or call us yourself, make the referral, because sometimes the right tool for a problem is a doctor, and sometimes it's a lawyer, and recognizing which is how you meet your patient's needs. That's really important.
Absolutely.
Other than that, please support us, whether it's with Amazon Smile or Kroger community things, or coming out to our events. If we still have the bag event scheduled for March, it's been pushed back and pushed back. Our cornhole tournament got canceled, which is sad.
I did read that if you go to Dillard's, excuse me, with a slightly or gently used pocketbook or purse, that they will take that and give you I think it's a 25% discount on what you purchase. So there's a benefit to CancerLink from that. I might be heading that way soon with an old purse.
We have this wonderful bag event where we have some really fancy, very gently used purses that are auctioned, and people are serious about their purses, man.
Absolutely. Well, Lisa, I can't thank you enough on behalf of the patient population, the patient community at Massey Cancer Center, for all that you, MLP, CancerLink, and all of the volunteer attorneys and financial planners are doing to give our patients peace of mind, helping them sleep at night, and certainly helping with the quality of life. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're more than welcome.
If listeners would like more information, they can reach out to Integrative Health at Massey Cancer Center. Just look on our website and you'll see the phone number, and we can certainly, we'll be glad to answer your questions. Before I end this, just checking to make sure there weren't any questions from our community out there that's listening in. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. And thank you again, Lisa.
Thanks, Susan. Bye.
Bye.